All right, welcome to episode number 209 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We're recording July 16th, 2023. My name's Eric, host of the show, based in Southern Ontario, hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and computer geek. As a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events and started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
And I'm Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
Glad to see your mic's fixed this week.
Welcome back.
Yes. I didn't have to throw it in the fire, so we're all good.
There you go. And I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario. Consider myself a part-time amateur prepper.
I'm the Frugal Gunny, recently moved to Northern Ontario in the middle of nowhere. I'm an off-gridder, a shooter, hunter, fisher, gatherer, trapper type, and a generalist. And I only recently came to accept that I'm a prepper.
And now here you are.
Here I am.
You were saying earlier, Eric, one of us. One of us.
Yep.
And if anybody wants to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, you can buy some swag. We have both the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and a tactical Velcro patch at www.prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, whether good or bad, or just if there's a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some twisted content for you in this episode, and no, not the internet twisted like all you guys are thinking. We're going to start off with some recent news. We'll update you on our personal preps. Then we're going to get into the main topic, and we're actually going to chat tornadoes tonight now that Jeff has sorted out his microphone. We're only going to poke at you a few more times about that, Jeff.
Why not, eh?
Let's move into the news, shall we?
So apparently there was a tsunami warning issued in Alaska this morning, late Saturday, at 10 o'clock or so, a 7.2 magnitude earthquake near the Alaska Peninsula, 55 miles southwest of Sand Point, Alaska, in Kodiak. Sirens sounded, waking up a whole bunch of people. Significant inundation of an alert was given, and then it was downgraded to just an advisory before being canceled on Sunday. But still, it had a whole bunch of people up in arms, and figured that was kind of relevant to the weather topic we're doing tonight, just out in the ocean instead of on land.
It's
be
been
pretty
some
scary.
Interesting weather the last little while.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is in Yellowknife. And my wife was wondering, is that going to affect him? I'm like, nah, it's a tsunami warning. He's inland. Don't worry about it.
Well, he's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. Still, tsunamis, that's not something you want to mess with. And then,
No.
with those obviously come
isn't.
earthquakes. And yikes.
Yeah, my brother is on the East Coast in Newfoundland, but he's kind of central on the rock, like on the island. But still, they still take that seriously. And when I was there to see him last summer for his wedding, we had a little sit-down chat, and he knew I was on this podcast, and we had a little sit-down chat, and he said, okay, like, should I be doing anything extra? Like, he brought me to his basement, said, here, what do I have? What do I need and whatnot? And we went through a bunch of stuff, and
Nice.
a little bit happier, sleep a little bit better knowing that he's okay.
It's good.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, for other news articles, I'm sure everybody's kind of heard about the two tornadoes in the Ottawa area.
Yes.
A little bit crazy there. From what I've been reading in the news, it was two that actually ended up crossing paths at one point in time. So
I hear.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. That was the one in Barhaven.
Yep.
Yes.
The Northern Tornado Project, which is a joint venture from University of Western Ontario, Dr. David Sills, and Environment Canada. they go and do assessments of all the tornadoes. And yeah, they said that's very rare to ever see that you have two separate tornadoes that actually cross paths.
That's crazy. But I don't remember reading there's any major injuries, just a lot of property damage.
One injury from broken glass or something. Lady slipped and fell or something on cut her arm or something, treated at scene, and that was it.
That's wild when you consider it too.
150 buildings, not necessarily houses, but 150 buildings suffered some kind of damage from the tornadoes.
Wow.
Okay.
I think those were F1 categories, right?
They haven't technically. No, I believe they were F-Zeros, if I'm not mistaken. I would have to go back and check, but I thought they said they were F-Zeros. But it doesn't matter. I mean, classification, yeah, but it's the damage in the whole.
It goes to show that even a smaller category tornado does deliver a fair amount of damage.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
Well, I believe I would have to go back and check my numbers, so don't quote me. But I believe to be an F0 tornado, you have to be a minimum. I'm going to say minimum 125 kilometers an hour, or somewhere in that number. So
well, that is now officially on the internet, Jeff. So it's true. Doesn't matter.
You said it.
Yeah, me and my big mouth again. Yep.
The amateur weather nerd said it, so it's true.
No, it doesn't matter. You could have told us 140, 110. It's on the internet. The number's true. No questions. All right. Shall we move into what we've done lately for preps?
Actually, I don't live too far away from Ottawa. And because of those storms, I had a bit more yard cleanup to do here. I did a little bit of fuel rotation, cleanup in my shed from the winter and spring projects and whatnot continues. We purchased a new RV trailer for ourselves recently. So we've been spending some time setting that up and getting everything set in it and whatnot, make sure we're happy with it. We've spent a couple of nights in it so far. The kids are very happy that it's a larger one than the last one. And we're carrying on.
Nice.
And so I'm finishing up my firewood for not this coming winter, but the winter after. I'm trying to stay 2 years ahead. So trying to get that finished up. I did some fuel rotation, some food prep. I put in a little bit of R&R since the last show because I faked my broken microphone. So I just wanted time off for the record.
I knew it.
But actually today I was able to put my first aid skills to the test.
Oh.
What happened? Who'd you hurt?
I didn't hurt anybody. Somebody at the trailer park tripped over a metal object and put a pretty serious gash in their leg. They're on blood thinners, so so it was quite a job to get the bleeding to stop and get it under control, get them to the hospital, get them stitched up and back home. And so,
Wow.
You never know when something's going to happen. And, I will say this, and I know I'm going to get smacked for it, but I did not have my own first aid kit with me. It was at home. So I improvised with what I had, but I absolutely made it work, and everything got, the person's back. They're fine. And, just took 5 stitches, but, everything's good.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? You just leave the kit somewhere. There's one day where you just say, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to leave it sit here. I'm probably not going to need it. And that's going to be the day that you need it, right? So
absolutely.
It's typical, isn't it?
You made it through and you worked with what you had. And that's what's the important part, right?
Well done,
absolutely.
Jeff.
Yeah. Good job, man.
I always love a good first aid story.
Oh, yeah. All right. For myself, just been playing around with the reloading press and got a bunch of depriming done. So I've been saving up brass for quite a while, knowing that I was going to eventually go down this rabbit hole, just not knowing when. So I had a whole bunch of brass to deprime, and I had run it through my tumbler once before, but with all the primers out, I realized that those little pockets hold a lot of crud. So through the tumbler it went again.
Brilliant.
So, learning lessons along the way, right? And kind of practicing with drying everything off. And because I use a wet tumbler, so trying to figure out different ways to dry the brass and what works and what doesn't. And so just kind of been plugging away at that as time allows. And beyond that, it's been a lot of things at work. I've been on the road quite a bit. So the typical check out the hotel I'm in, walk around, figure out the lay of the land, the multiple exits, all that kind of stuff. Everybody thinks I'm crazy when I'm like, I'm going for a walk, and walk around the hotel for a bit. They're like, where are you going? Don't worry, I'm just checking things out. Because I go with the team, right? It's not just me that travels. And it's like, well, I'll be back in a bit, guys. And wander around and map the place out. And even though it's a place we've been to a few times, I always double check it because, things change, right? So
absolutely. You never know. Yeah. Some other guest could have nefarious intents.
This is true. And we always end up on different floors too, right? So things might be different. Probably not. The layout stays pretty consistent, but I like to check things out because I'm stuck there for the night. What else am I going to do besides drink beer, which is also important? But,
have to hydrate.
Very important. Yeah.
He's got his priorities. Yeah.
But, you hydrate, wander the hotel, check it out, map it out, and then hydrate again because, you dehydrated from the walk. So
And exercise is good. You have to
walk.
Yes,
and I have to get my steps in. This is true. Yeah.
There you go. All is good.
I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one who has a head on a swivel when they get to a location.
Yes. Yep. Always. Always.
Old habits die hard.
Yes.
Well, congrats on the brass haul.
Hey, thanks. It's going to be fun to get it all filled up and then blast it off again.
You'll have to let me know what calibers you're short of brass on because I have some excesses in certain areas. So let me
308 is the number.
Okay. I may have a few things for you.
Excellent.
Right on. Well, I guess it's my turn to talk about preps, isn't it?
It is.
So, other than sorting through kit, which is a never-ending task when it's sitting in bins, what I've been doing is looking for good deals. I found a new location to film my content at, so that's going to be a lot of fun. It's very, very photogenic, and there's even a nice running stream. So we're going to have the opportunity there to do some ASMR type videos. And recently found, thanks to Amazon Prime, a really great deal on a charge controller I'd been looking at. And it was like 37% off, so I had to jump on that. Even though I don't like giving a lot of business to Amazon, sometimes the prices are hard to resist, so I threw in for that. Other than that, got to do a little bit of first aid on myself this week when I walked through a field full of sand fleas. Yay! Twice I walked through the field. Yep.
Why would you do it twice?
Well, because I had to walk through it on my way there, and I walked through it on my way back. So
he just wanted to make sure that if he had to do the first aid, it was really, really going to be needed.
Yep. I had to give him a second drive-by snack, you see.
For them.
That's very PETA of you.
Thank you. I hope all the animal lovers out there got all the warm and fuzzies.
Very nice. Well, before we get kicked off the YouTubes for making fun of PETA, maybe we'll move into the main topic. So this evening, figured we'd chat tornadoes. We've alluded to a couple of times. We're thinking about doing that on the last episode, but due to some technical difficulties and potentially age, Jeff was not able to get his microphone to work. So he's got it sorted out now. And so we figured. Oh no! I guess I'll bring episode number 209 to an end. But no, so we've got Jeff here, our resident weather nerd, and figured we'd let him talk about tornadoes tonight. And timely, we had a couple go through Ottawa between our last episode and tonight. So like I said, thankfully nobody was injured, or we had the one injury there, but it sounds like it was minor, just a bunch of buildings damaged, but it could be much, much worse. So we wanted to kind of take the night and talk about everything tornado, what to watch for, what they're all about. We've got a basic understanding, I'm sure, from grade school about tornadoes and such, but let's go down the rabbit hole, shall we, and nerd out on tornadoes tonight.
I'm especially excited about this episode because I've been witness to a couple of these things. And I saw on some of the notes here what the definition of tornado is. So I think I've seen at least two. One of them I managed to capture on film, and that's on my channel. Not to plug my channel in here.
Plug away. Plug away.
It's the entire full-length video of the tornado that I witnessed. And so I'm going to have lots of questions for Jeff here. Because, if any of you have seen these or been near them or around them, it's a force of nature that just, you can't not feel something after having sat through a tornado.
That's one thing I haven't experienced yet, and I'm kind of thankful, but I kind of want to know what it's like to be near a tornado and to hear one and see one, so I know what to expect. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what Jeff has to say here, and all the show notes and everything to read through them as we go, and it's be interesting.
Don't get hyped up too much. Like, come on, you're giving me too much credit here.
No, but it's still like I don't know how they form or anything, and this is your I guess nerd area. This is what you like to do, and I drive for a living. I want to know what I'm getting into, right? So if I'm heading towards one, or if there's bad weather or whatnot, so this will be interesting for me. I know I'm going to be going over these show notes again later and probably rewatching this whole episode myself so I can better educate myself as to what I'm getting into.
So with all that hype, now I'm just going to drop it. Anyways, so I guess I'll start with where do tornadoes actually come from? So obviously tornadoes come from thunderstorms. You have to have a thunderstorm to have a tornado. There's two major types of thunderstorms that will produce tornadoes. They are a supercell and a non-supercell. So a supercell, they're the most dangerous. They're the ones that produce the most destructive tornadoes. So basically, a lot of times you guys will look on radar, and I'll explain it in a second, where you'll see a line of storm, and you'll see the what they call the line, but out in front of the line you'll see a bunch of pop-up thunderstorms. Those pop-up thunderstorms in front of the line are what they call a supercell. And why they're so dangerous is they're in front of the line. They're in the unstable atmosphere that's prime for storms, major storms, and there's no other storms around them to quote unquote eat up their energy, so they get everything that's there. The atmosphere is all for them, and those storms, if anybody's ever watched them, they can go from zilch to a major thunderstorm in 15 minutes. On average, a supercell has about a 20% chance to produce a tornado. So that's why they're so dangerous. Think about it. 1 in every 5 supercell thunderstorms produces a tornado. The non-supercells are that line that I talked about. So they're the line of storms. So you've got a whole big line that comes through. They're that's commonly referred to as a quasi-linear convective system, or a QLCS. Those storms, nonetheless, are still dangerous. They still will produce tornadoes. They're more apt to produce straight line wind damage than tornado damage, but still, they're going to produce damage.
Question for you, Jeff.
Pardon?
Question for you.
Yep.
When I'm looking at the radar I know you and I use the instant weather app. If I'm looking at that and I just see like the line, like the green clouds, or they do the different shading depending on the intensity of the storm that's coming through. So the supercell is literally like just that line of cloud and then nothing in front or behind it?
No, that line is the what I call the QLCS. That's the quasi-linear convective system. The supercell is just a storm to itself.
Okay. So it'd see that on the radar moving on its own, nothing else around it.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And then when you see the line of storms that runs for sometimes hundreds of kilometers,
Right.
that's your quasi-linear convective system.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else while I'm taking questions?
Not
Nope,
yet.
that's good. Okay.
I'll have more.
So obviously, like I said, tornadoes usually occur when conditions favor the development of strong thunderstorms. Essential conditions for these storms is the presence of cool, dry air at the middle level of the troposphere, so further up in the atmosphere, overlying a layer of moist, unstable air near the surface. So, as everybody knows, warm air rises. So, in simple terms, tornadoes are formed during severe weather cycles that combine a thunderstorm, colliding air masses, so a cold front with a warm front, a combination of cold and warm air, as I just mentioned, and a high and low pressure. Obviously, winds blow from high pressure to low pressure, so that's where you get the wind direction. That's where you get, and then strong weather will develop. So just think about, as warm, humid air. So the sun comes down, it heats the ground, the hot, humid air, warm air rises, it rises up, it displaces out the cold air that comes back down to the ground. It gets heated, it rises, it goes back up, and it does that cycle until you get a storm. And depending on all of the conditions of the atmosphere, the humidity, all of that stuff is going to tell you how good or how really bad this storm is going to be. I'm sure you guys have all heard stories, or even seen it yourself. It's a hot, humid day. You know a storm's coming. Before the storm gets to you, you're like, man, it has cooled down. It's like dropped like 15 degrees. That's when you need to be really, really concerned, because that's, like I say, that's where the warm air rises. It dissipates the cold air, and the cold air drops on the outside of the storm. So if you're getting that, much cooler air just before the storm comes, you're probably looking for a good storm.
I have
That's a good tip.
We get that cold hit, and then after the storm, all of a sudden the temperature is much higher. But just before the storm, there is that sudden drop in temperature, and sometimes the air motion changes completely. So if there was a breeze before, all of a sudden it's completely still or changes direction. And that's the other thing I've noticed also, is the rapid changes in wind direction. I'm always following my wind, and whenever I feel that wind change suddenly like that, it always puts me on high alert, and I noticed that just recently with the last round of storms. So that's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why it's important to always kind of be aware of what's happening around you, right? Not only just people, animals, etc., but just the temperature, like Jeff just mentioned. When all of a sudden it goes from one extreme to the other, it's time to kind of perk up and go, okay, something's up here. Maybe we're getting into a good storm coming, right? So
it seems like Mother Nature is also an opponent.
This is true. Could be a friend or a foe.
Yep. In this case, probably a foe, but you never know. So basically, what's the actual definition of a tornado? It's a narrow, violently rotating column of air that extends from a thunderstorm to the ground. Now that's important. The tornado, to be classified as a tornado, it has to extend to the ground. If it just drops down, if it has to touch the ground. If it does not touch the ground, it is classified as a funnel cloud. It looks like a tornado, it acts like a tornado, but it doesn't touch the ground. And because it doesn't touch the ground, it doesn't do damage, right? So the tornado, to be classified as a tornado, it must touch the ground.
And if I might ask, what do we call it until it touches the ground?
It is considered a funnel cloud.
A funnel cloud, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's two common terms that I think people would mix up quite a bit, is funnel cloud and tornado. That I know I have many times mixed the two up. So that's good to know.
So now you said it has to touch the ground to do damage.
Well, yeah, because if it's in the so think about it, if it's spinning in the air,
Yeah,
What's in the air? Nothing.
nothing.
It's just air.
Airplanes. Oh, sorry, I had to go there.
I
Yes.
I highly
No, they're not going to be anywhere near it. No.
No, they're gonna
no.
find a way to go around, or they're gonna
Yeah.
be high enough, depending on the height, whatever. So yeah.
I'm just being a jerk. Carry on.
I
So now-
experienced a funnel cloud at Five Fingers Hill in Petawawa. Oh gosh, a long time ago. And it was strong enough to tear a modular tent out of its pickets, and it rolled over in Iltis on top of Five Fingers Hill. And we all decided at that point, or I think we were told, that we needed to get off the hill, and we found this little divot at the bottom of the hill where we were somewhat sheltered. But I mean, when it's turning over Iltises, and I don't know, it didn't feel very safe. But
Not much cover you can get.
yeah, that now Five Fingers Hill, for anybody who's never been to Petawawa, and I'm pretty sure that's most people listening. It's this hill in the middle of a kind of a plain, a long, wide plain surrounded with a few hills to either side, but it's a bit of a plain, a large, long, wide field, and then there is this little knob of a hill in the middle of this wide field. And it's kind of sandy. There's not a whole lot of brush on this hill. It's mostly grassy, so you're rather exposed. So I think maybe we just had those gusts of wind that were shifting things around, but that thing never touched down. So I guess that's why I was asking earlier, Jeff. I'm going to pick your brain. So I've now seen 2 funnel clouds where we had a fair amount of wind before that, but I wouldn't say destruction of stuff. But throwing in Iltis, I don't know. I know 4 men can pick it up and move it out of a ditch, so we're not talking about big heavy weight, but that was scary enough for me.
Yeah. So probably I'm gonna surmise and say you can get a funnel cloud, and if it doesn't touch the ground, the wind that's blowing underneath it will act like a straight line wind damage. So you're getting the rotation, but the wind on the ground isn't spinning; it's going in a straight line. And I'll explain straight line winds a little bit later. But that's probably what you experienced. So
that's exactly what I experienced. But it was a major directional wind, and it just felt like it was going to throw us off the hill. It was going to just throw us right off, but it wasn't spinning on the ground at all. And before the funnel started, it seemed like there was just a bit of a mild breeze. And when we started to see the clouds beginning to rotate before there was a funnel, that's when the wind started rising. So it all happened very quickly. I'm talking in the span of less than 5 minutes. We've got a breeze to, oh geez, there's rotation in the air. Okay.
So Dave's asking in the live stream, what differing conditions lead to, he says shear winds, we call them wind shear. Doesn't matter. I know what he's talking about. Basically, for the most part, it's the upper level jet.
It's not the sharks like he says later on the next time.
No,
Oh,
that would be Shark-Nadoes, and you can just go watch the movie for that one. But yeah, it a lot of it is controlled by is dependent on the upper level jet and how far up the upper level jet is. It varies in height. There's another thing I really didn't kind of put it in the notes, but I'll quickly mention it. And you'll hear some weather people talk about the cap. And if a storm breaks the cap, then that's when you get into trouble. Basically, the cap is a level of warm air. So what you get is you get the warm air at the surface. It rises into that cooler air, but then there's another warmer area above that cool air. And if the updraft is strong enough to push through that upper level warmer air and go through it and do what they call break the cap, it opens that up. And then that's when you get that wind shear. And that's when you get the really, really violent tornadoes is when you break what they call break the cap. So hopefully I explained that good enough. I should have put more in my notes, but
I think I got it.
This has to do with the ceiling, right?
Yes. Yep. Some call it the ceiling, some call it the cap.
Okay.
So like I say, because and this is where Gunny's thing was up, because wind is invisible, it's sometimes hard to see a tornado unless it forms a condensation funnel made up of water droplets, dust, or debris. Almost all tornadoes usually have a condensation funnel, so they're fairly easy to see. It is rare to not see a tornado coming. Now, the exceptions to that obviously are nocturnal tornadoes, so it's dark, you can't see them. Or another phenomenon is they call them rain wrapped. It's where you have a very, very intense rainstorm right in front of the tornado, where literally you can't see the tornado coming because of the rain. I'm going to say that happens in probably about 15% of the tornadoes, where you get them what they call rain wrapped, and they are difficult to see. So I've got something else in here. Where did you? Yeah, almost all tornadoes have the condensation funnel, but not always. Tornadoes can be and usually are among the most violent phenomenon of the atmospheric storms we experience. On average, the U.S. gets about 1,200 tornadoes a year.
That many?
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yep. There's typically about 5 variations of a tornado. So we have a water spout, which is exactly as it is. It's a tornado over water. And then you have a land spout, which is a water spout that reaches land before it lifts, and it becomes what they call a land spout tornado. They are both usually weak and don't do a lot of catastrophic damage.
So like an F-0 or somewhere around there?
Yeah, usually most of them are F-0s. And I mean, if it's a tornado, the lowest classification they can go is a 0. So yeah, it would be a 0. Doesn't matter
Okay.
The overland tornadoes they have are there's a rope tornado, which is exactly what it sounds. It's a very thin braid, goes right from the cloud to the ground. It's very thin. It's very narrow. I'm sure you've seen pictures where you look down a street, one side of the street is gone, and the other side of the street isn't even touched.
Yeah.
That's probably usually a rope tornado. Yep. You can get what they call a cone tornado. So think about your ice cream, sugar cone. It's in a cone, so it's very, very narrow at the bottom, much wider at the top. Again, very isolated. The bottom isn't very wide. Doesn't do a lot of damage. It does a lot of damage, but it's in a narrow pocket. You have multi-vortex. Exactly as it sounds, you actually have more than one tornado coming out of a thunderstorm. Rare, happens. And then the last one is the wedge tornado. The wedge tornadoes are think about it. It's exactly that. It's a wedge. In most cases, a lot of cases, these wedge tornadoes can be 1 to 2+ miles wide at the base.
Yeah, that's
Tim
huge.
Samaras. If anybody knows anything about storm chasing and movies and stuff, Tim Samaras was one of the world's best storm chasers, and he actually got caught in a wedge tornado in El Reno, Oklahoma, and died as a result.
I remember reading about that, and did they actually find him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
He was still in his vehicle, but the vehicle was just totally, there was absolutely nothing left of it. They figure it was picked up and carried for maybe half a mile, spinning and turning and hitting everything in its path, and then it just dumped them.
So I have a question for you, Jeff. You said 2 miles wide?
Yep.
So you're talking about the bottom portion of the funnel being 2 miles wide?
Yep.
Wow. So and I don't know if you can tell me, but that 2-mile wide swath of tornado path, is the vortex the same strength the whole way through? Like, does everything just get sucked up? Does anything have a chance?
Absolutely. I'm sure you've seen pictures, and there's been pictures. Yep, literally, a an F4 or an F5 tornado going across a highway, peeling the pavement with it.
Wow.
You'll see violent storms where it will literally debark a tree. It will just skin the bark right off the tree.
Wow.
If it hasn't picked it up and tossed it.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
That's some good roots.
Well, the one I pictured that landed in Gatineau, across from Ottawa, while it was tossing all kinds of roof shingles, and I'm pretty sure I saw aluminum siding or soffits in there flying about. There was also dirt and tree shrubbery, and a little further down, after it hit the transformer, there was wires flying around in the funnel. So yeah, everything else gets caught up in that and spins around at the same speed. So that's why I was wondering, 2 miles wide, that's quite a distance for an object to pick up speed.
Yep.
Right, and that's what happened with Tim Samaras. Is they thought the storm, and I mean, obviously, tornadoes, like anything, they don't just go in a straight line. A lot of them do, but a lot of them meander. This storm in El Reno, you can Google it, and there's all kinds of talks about it. It literally went side to side. It reversed on itself at one point, and Tim was on a back road. He thought the storm was going to go left. It went right. He had nowhere to go. It was too wide. He couldn't get out of the way. He just didn't have enough time to get out of the way. So,
wow.
Even the experts are wrong sometimes.
It's true.
Yep. And when you're wrong in that size of a tornado, the results usually aren't in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 miles is not a narrow margin. That's no. You don't have any margin of error when you've got a 2 mile wide path.
2 miles,
right?
is how many kilometers is that? 2 miles.
3.2.
That's about 3.5. Yeah.
3. Oh shit.
Yeah. So that's huge. So as I mentioned, nocturnal or nighttime storms and rain wrapped are about as scary as you can get because you can't see them coming. A lot of people who've been up close and personal with a tornado said it sounded like a freight train coming. So the old adage, if you hear the roar, get indoors.
I also compare it to a really angry hive of bees, like a really loud buzzing sound that just fills your ears. That's what it sounded like for a while. But the train running by you is a good analogy too.
I have a problem with that because maybe a half a kilometer from my house is a very active freight train line. So I'm kind of screwed, I guess.
So now you're going to think it's a tornado every time it goes by?
Oh, I hope not. It goes by like clockwork. Oh.
It's a very timely tornado.
Yeah. Anything else to be wary of sound-wise, other than the freight train, or like Gunny said, the bees or whatnot? Anything else to be?
Yeah, if you start hearing trees cracking and things smashing,
I kind of figured that.
Because at that point, you're too late.
It's too late.
Yeah, no, that's basically what they've said, and they said, you could hear it coming. It's like you could hear the train coming. So.
And I would never. You've talked about nocturnal a couple of times. I never even crossed my mind. Yeah, you're not going to see those things at night. It's a bunch of wind, right? And yeah, you're just that. Thanks for freaking me out on that one, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem. I owed you that one for the whole
the multiple pokes at you over this episode and last. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should admit that there are
what can you do for a tornado? Make sure you have a way to get notifications for tornado warnings.
That one's key.
I say invest in a good crank radio with weather channels and other options. Maybe find and download a weather app that sends push notifications directly to your phone. If you're in Ontario, I can't recommend this place enough. They don't pay me. I don't get a dime from them. It's called Instant Weather Ontario, and for me, they are my go-to for where I live
Yep.
and being in the province. And you can pick different cities of people or friends where you live, and if you've got that city picked and they put a warning out for that area, it's going to pop up on your phone.
Yep.
So
And I can second that recommendation from Jeff. I use that same app. They are fantastic. They've just proven themselves to be accurate with their reporting and their warnings. And I like the fact that they live stream when major things are going on. They actually hop on and will live stream information to you. Even with the tornadoes that were going through Barrie, one of the live streamers, or one of the guys that heads up the app, and is in Barrie, and he was still live streaming with the tornadoes going through. So they're very dedicated to what they do, obviously. And
Nice.
yeah, they've been really, really good with reliable information. And I see that, Melissa. Ham radio, yes, we'll get there.
So some people have asked, do tornadoes only occur in North America? And the answer to that is no. Tornadoes occur in many parts of the world, including Australia, Europe, Africa, Asia, and South America. Even New Zealand gets maybe about 20 tornadoes a year. Two of the highest concentrations of tornadoes outside of the U.S., believe it or not, are Argentina and Bangladesh. Two places I would have never picked out for places that have tornadoes.
Now, Jeff, do you know if there's a place where one can go to find out if their area is prone to tornadoes? Like the area I happen to be in right now these days?
There I can find some links and maybe plop them in Discord or find somewhere. But I mean, if you're in the U.S. National Weather Service, they track tornadoes, and they've got records going back years of what they call Tornado Alley and where the big storms happen to go. And I would imagine Environment Canada or maybe the Northern Tornado Project would have something. I'd have to try and find that.
I'm starting to think in Canada it would likely be Environment Canada that would hold all that information.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, I don't even know if they have such a thing as a one-stop shop. That'll be an interesting thing for me to follow up on. I'll go do a little bit of digging too and see what I can find.
Okay. And I'll kind of close things out with tornado safety. So I've given you what a tornado is, and you know what? The tornado's coming, and you're in the path. You know it's coming. What do? The best place is underground, in some kind of a storm shelter, or in your basement, obviously.
Are you suggesting preppers should have bunkers?
I'm suggesting if you don't have a bunker, you're not a prepper. How's that?
Well played, Jeff. Well played.
Laying it down.
Chuck one up.
If you don't have a basement, like myself, the best place is the most interior room of your house. Caveat to that is ground floor. Do not go up to a second floor. Ground floor, the most interior room of the house. A common place people suggest to go into and hide is the bathtub. It can be somewhat effective. It may shelter you from some debris. Most deaths and serious injuries are caused by flying debris. So a suggestion I can give is get low to the ground. Cover yourself with as much padding as you can. You know what? If you're going to jump into the bathtub, take some pillows with you. Grab a duvet off your bed. Grab something.
Grab the mattress. Something.
A mattress, absolutely. Yep.
Might as well get comfy.
Stay away from windows.
I was thinking along the lines of the trampolines for asteroids, only mattresses for flying debris. I had to.
Yeah. Yep.
Well played.
Or just trampolines. Just get trampolines and bring them into the bathtub, right?
I guess you could do that too if you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll have them for the asteroids, so just collect them outside and bring them in.
True. So as Brad mentioned, that person in Ottawa got injured by flying glass.
Yep.
Don't stand at your window and watch the tornado come to you. Just don't. Don't ask me why. Just don't. That's kind of up there on the dumb list.
Solid advice.
So I'd heard before that a lot of the reason why they suggest that you get into the bathtub, if at all, is the bathtub is usually heavier supported, like more structurally supported and attached to the house. And
makes sense when you think about it.
Because it's usually on ground floor for a lot of older homes. Ground floor is the main bathroom. It's like you said, Jeff. It's already on the main floor. It's lower to the ground, like to the floor itself, and it's attached rigidly to the foundation, to the frame of the house. That has less of a chance of being picked up and tossed away with the house.
Yeah, when you think about it, it has to be structurally sound because it's designed to hold a whole lot of water, right? Which is heavy. So it's got to be built really, really ruggedly for that purpose, right? Which then gives you the advantage of it being built ruggedly. So I think it makes sense. I'm no contractor by any means, but it makes sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense.
And the last one, as silly as this sounds, if you have or own a helmet, put it on. It may sound stupid.
We're talking a hockey helmet, a bike helmet, a construction helmet.
Any kind of protection for your melon. Most deaths and serious injuries is caused by flying debris. If you've got some way, and let's face it, you can take a hit to the gut. It might hurt. It might cause a little bit of damage. You take that same force velocity hit to the head, and you're probably dead. So
that's a good point.
You need something to protect the melon as best you can. So if you've got a helmet, doesn't matter, hockey helmet, even a bicycle helmet. I know they don't protect the jaw area and that, but
it's better than nothing, though.
A solid check. Exactly. It's better than nothing. So,
I would rather have a broken jaw and a head
smashed in skull. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So now, I can definitely agree with the construction helmet or the bike helmet, the Ski-Doo, the motorcycle, all of those helmets. Yeah, it'd be great if you had one, but like you said, anything helps.
Yep.
In the case of, and this is because when I witnessed one of the tornadoes, I happened to be in an office building. So now applying that same logic that you've shared with us here to an office building, again, get away from the windows, and I think I would run towards the elevator shaft. That would probably be the place where there's the most structure, right?
Just make sure the elevator's not above you.
Or stairwell. Most stairwells don't have windows. Right. They're concrete. Yes, they may be on the outside of the building, but it's all concrete. There's usually no windows in a stairwell. So
yeah, and they're usually the first thing to go up as the building goes up is the stairwell, so the construction can keep happening. So you know that they're built soundly. They have a lot of weight on those going up and down.
This is true, and every time we did emergency drills, we're always in the stairwells anyway. So probably best to follow your emergency building plan, your building emergency plan, which usually involves getting out and using stairwells.
Does that mean to prepare to do that?
Oh gosh, no, we wouldn't want to go ahead and push emergency preparedness on an emergency preparedness show.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, I should ignore the evacuation plans and any other documentation about the building and not walk around and learn the layout of the building until the emergency hits, and then I should read all those things and figure out the floor plan.
If you want to do that, you go right ahead.
I like Tito's comment there. When in doubt, head to Jeff's house and use his bunker. Yeah, okay. If you can find it, then
he'll be at my place stealing all my stuff.
That's an inappropriate question. I'm not going to answer that one.
So next episode will be about do-it-yourself bunker designs coming right up.
Just kidding, Jarrett.
Yeah. Jeff lost his hair by working with me for years. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yep. Any other questions from the panelists, from the chat? Anything that you think I haven't covered or
So
talked
I
about,
remember
or-
I remember years ago as a kid being told if you don't have a basement or like a central area in a location to just find a ditch or something. Was that them just hoping that we'd run out and disappear in the tornado, or is that like a legitimate thing, or do you know?
I would much rather be even if you don't have a basement, like I said, indoors in the interior-most room. One thing I didn't put in the notes, and you just jogged my memory on it, is you see a lot of people on a highway. The storm's coming, the tornado's coming. They get under an underpass.
Yep.
Not recommended.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've
Under
heard it
the
just creates a wind
underpass,
tunnel.
it acts like a wind tunnel, and it massively increases the speed.
Ah.
And B, what are you going to hang on to? It's flat concrete. There's no handles. There's nothing to hang on to unless you can actually get yourself up into those girders somehow and be above that bottom wind line. You're just going to get sucked right out. It's not going to help you.
Okay.
Good to know.
So stop watching Hollywood movies.
Wait a minute. Hold
You mean
on.
they don't portray real life?
Yep.
Oh, it's the last time we see Gunny on the show, I guess. Doing all this big propaganda.
Yeah, that's the end of me. I'm probably going to have a car accident sometime this week, friends.
Oh, jeez. We weren't going to go that far with it. Oh, my God. It's only a podcast.
For entertainment purposes.
We probably don't have that much reach, do we? Or do we?
So, so Cap in the live chat says, "Is the bathtub thing a real option?" As I mentioned, absolutely it is. Brad mentioned it as well. It's in a better constructed part of your house to take the weight of the water in the bathtub and all that. It's if you get down in the bathtub, if something falls, it's going to land on top of the tub, hopefully, and not squish you down. So absolutely, it is a legitimate option.
Yep.
As long, again, as I say, you're not on the second floor, because if you're on the second floor, you never know, you might become on the first floor under your bed.
But at least you're in the bathtub.
Yeah.
That's what's easy to clean yourself up after the fall.
Absolutely.
Eric had a really good question, and while he was asking it, I thought about why they say that. So it was about the ditch thing. I'm pretty sure lying down in the ditch will not protect me from the tornado if it picks me up and comes overhead. I'm pretty sure that ditch isn't going to do anything. But what it could well do is prevent a certain percentage of debris from whacking me in the head and making me unconscious, yep. I would think, right?
Plus, the other thing I would go with on that one is the ditch, the bottom of the ditch is lower than the ground. Like Jeff said about the girders of the bridge, as long as you're above that low, and this would be the opposite, is you're under the ground. You're below the ground, so to speak. You're not going to catch the wind.
Right.
Yep.
There might be something to it after all.
Okay.
Now, I have no idea if this is true or not. Somebody had said before to me, like years back, we were talking about a whole bunch of shit, about a tornado, about using an underpass as shelter, and I had said to them, no, don't do it. I had heard previously if you were here and the tornado is coming this way at you, you go here on the opposite side of the overpass as kind of in the middle of the embankment going down the overpass. It's the largest, it's the thickest part of the structure, so to speak. You are out of the way of the wind on the lower end and out of the way of the wind on the upper end, and you might actually survive. But I have no idea if that was actually true.
You might, but again, it's the same from my end of it, it's kind of the same adage as being under your, yep, you're still laying in open ground.
Yes.
And you have nothing to hang on to.
Correct.
So you're hoping that the wind isn't strong enough that it
Picks you up and
sucks you
tosses
up
you out.
or pushes you out. And I mean, there's all kinds of, you know, different options and different things you can look at. That's one of them. But whether it would work or not, I'm not about to. I'm not going to want to try and find out.
I don't want to either.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of maybes, and it depends when it comes to Mother Nature in general, but specifically with tornadoes.
Yes.
Completely unpredictable.
Now, I want to make a point here that Jeff was mentioning earlier about finding cover and how important it is, because it's occurring to me that even an F0 tornado, if the number he quoted us is the hard number of 100 kilometers, even around 100 miles an hour, and that being a lower classed tornado, and we know that the higher classed ones, of course, they reach in excess of hundreds of miles an hour in winds speeds. We know a record-setting baseball throw is in excess of 100 kilometers an hour. We're over 60 miles an hour easily, right? That can do an awful lot of damage. So I think the big point here is definitely to get oneself away from any potential flying debris. And so I think that's
So I just quickly looked up here. The this is the U.S., but an EF0 is 65 miles an hour to 85. So you're looking 65 is what, about 110 kilometers an hour?
Yeah.
And a rating of an EF5 tornado, and there have been EF5s in Canada as well, but mostly in the U.S. To be an EF5, you have to be over 200 miles an hour. That's where, like I said, you debark trees, you strip pavement off the ground. Your house, if it doesn't have a basement and is on a foundation, I know I've told you to go into the interior room. If you're in an EF5, nothing's going to be left but your cement pad. Unfortunately, it is what it is.
Dig a hole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This bunker thing sounds really good, Jeff.
It does.
When do we start construction, Pierre?
It's really odd to be talking about bunkers on this podcast.
I know.
Don't know if I'm comfortable with this, gentlemen.
And weren't we the anti-bunker prepper podcast? We're trying to brand ourselves
bunkers in general or preppers? I didn't know it was a thing.
Oh, is it? Oh, jeez.
Tito in the live chat here has put a little bit of a story in, just mentioning the only experience with a tornado was in Indiana. I was across the street from my aunt's house playing with the neighbor's kid. It was all clear out, and in a matter of minutes, we were under a tornado warning with heavy wind outside. The quickness of how that all went down was insane. So it's a great point. It can happen in just a flash, right?
Yep. I mentioned it. Eric mentioned it. The Instant Weather Ontario. Was it last year, Eric, the tornado went through Barrie, or was it 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago.
I believe. Yeah, two.
Two, yeah. So anyways, I'm watching, they're live streaming at the time, and they had put up a caution for rotation detected about 8 minutes before the tornado hit. 3 minutes before the tornado hit, they said something is on the ground. We're seeing the debris field. We're seeing that kind of stuff. Something's on the ground.
Yep.
Environment Canada didn't issue a tornado warning till the tornado had been on the ground for over a minute.
Yep.
Wow.
So
yeah, they're on top of things. It's wild.
And you know, I would have to go back and find the stats, but it was in there somewhere that out of all of the tornadoes in Canada that actually touched down, I believe it was only 45% of them occurred under an active tornado warning from Environment Canada. The other 55% were unwarned storms. Not saying that they weren't, you know, you're going to have a severe thunderstorm or you were under a tornado watch, but you were not under a warning when the tornado actually hit. So
we had the actually similar thing even today. I put it in our little group chat. was just at home here. We had a good downpour of rain, but prior to that, I got an alert on the instant weather app just saying that there was a rotation detected in Elmvale, which is not too far from here. I went, oh, no other warnings from any other applications or any other systems that I've got here. But the instant weather app was like, hey, heads up, rotation detected in your area. You might want to pay attention. So I can't recommend them enough either. And like Jeff said, no kickbacks or anything. They're not paying us to say that. It's an app that we like. That's really, really good.
And it seems clearly from the speed with which these things hit, nothing quite replaces being aware of what's going on around you. You know, when that temperature shift happens suddenly, when that wind shift all of a sudden occurs, probably time to take notice, right?
Absolutely. Awesome. Anybody else have any questions for Jeff from the panel or the live chat?
Not at this time, sir.
All right. Any final comments from you, Jeff?
No. I think I've kind of covered what I had in my notes, and
awesome. Cool. Well, with that, maybe we'll move into the podcast challenge. So your challenge for this episode is just get some kind of a tornado preparedness plan together. Get the instant weather app or some other form of notification, or maybe multiple forms of notification, because it's a prepper podcast, right? And just be aware of your area, whether or not you're susceptible to tornadoes, and get that early warning system in place so that you're ready to go, and then get a plan in place to know what it is you're going to be doing. Upcoming events. Got nothing for you this week. Thankfully, we don't have any tornadoes in this section either, so fingers crossed. Do you got a weather blurb for us this week as well, Jeff?
Yeah, just really, really short.
Cool.
Obviously, the summer continues to be hot and dry. High temperature records are being set in tons of areas almost daily. One example, the greater Las Vegas area right now is under a heat warning. If anybody's ever been in Vegas in the summer, they are unbearably hot. If they're giving you a warning, they're super hot. So again, know your surroundings, stay hydrated, wear a hat, sunscreen, try to find somewhere to keep cool, go into a mall if you have to, whatever, to just try and keep things cool if you can.
Tito in the live chat there was saying he's in Arizona. No tornadoes here today, but yesterday it was 118 degrees.
Is that all?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
I believe that might be in egg frying territory. Isn't it?
Sunny side up, please. Two of them.
Video or it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Brad, what do we got for deal of the week this week?
Princess Auto, our favorite store, has a sale on some RV shutdown supplies, actually. Just trying to go back here a second here. They've got good deals on sewer hoses and clean out devices and gray water odor control solutions, RV water heater drain plug kits, just a bunch of different stuff to keep your RV in shape, as they say, and whatnot. And if you're, it's almost that time of the year to shut them down, so why not get a few things now to get yourself ahead of the game to make sure you got them. And
even add them to your list of preps for alternate use.
There you go. Or for next year, or somebody who you know is going to get an RV. It's a nice present for them. They're on sale. So
there you go. Happy new RV. Here's something to make your gray water not smell. Awesome. All right. So with that, I'll bring episode number 209 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or of course your favorite podcast app. Please help us out, submit a review. It does help other people find us.
And we do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. You can contact me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
If anybody wants to reach out, they can reach me at batbradcpp@gmail.com.
And you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and on the Canadian Prepper Podcast Discord.
All right, and please check out Rapid Survival at rapidsurvival.com. You can find me there on the live chat while you're purchasing some prepper gear. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.